Imagine waking up in a house that is usually a battlefield. Usually, by 8 a.m., my house sounds like a zoo. My older brother Nick is usually blasting heavy metal music. My little sister is screaming because she can't find her favorite hair tie. And my parents? They are usually running around like they are trying to put out a fire. But today was different. I opened my eyes and looked at the ceiling. No thumping from upstairs. No shouting from the kitchen. I checked the clock on my nightstand. 9:30 a.m. My heart skipped a beat. Had I slept through the apocalypse? I walked out of my room, my bare feet patting softly on the cold hardwood floor. "Mom?" I called out. No answer. "Nick? If you're hiding, I'm going to tell Dad you broke his trophy." Still, nothing but the hum of the refrigerator. I walked downstairs, and that's when I saw the absolute disaster in the hallway. Half-eaten pieces of toast on the table, a stray suitcase lying open near the door, and a single, lonely sock on the rug. They were gone. In the frantic rush to get to the airport for the family wedding in the mountains, they had actually, truly, 100% forgotten me. At first, a wave of cold fear washed over me. I was a 10-year-old boy in a house designed for 15 people. But then, a slow, mischievous smile spread across my face. No one to tell me to eat my vegetables. No per-hour limit on the PlayStation. I walked to the kitchen, grabbed a giant bowl, and filled it with 3 different kinds of sugary cereal. I topped it with chocolate syrup and whipped cream. Why? Because I was the king of the castle now. The first 5 hours were pure bliss. I watched every movie I wasn't allowed to see. I turned the grand staircase into a giant slide using cardboard boxes and laundry detergent. I was living the dream. I didn't realize that outside, in the freezing Chicago wind, eyes were watching my house. Cold, greedy eyes that had been waiting for this exact moment. As the sun began to set over the frozen Illinois plains, the sky turned a bruised purple. Most kids my age were probably tucked in bed, dreaming of video games. But me? I was standing in the middle of my kitchen, looking at my house not as a home, but as a tactical battlefield. I knew Slim and Rusty were out there in that rusted black van, watching. They thought I was a victim. They were wrong. I was the architect of their downfall. I started in the kitchen. My mother was very proud of her Italian marble floors. They were smooth, expensive, and when wet, more dangerous than a banana peel on a glacier. I grabbed 3 jumbo bottles of extra virgin olive oil from the pantry. I didn't just pour it, I painted the floor with it. To make it even more treacherous, I emptied 5 jars of corn syrup over the oil. It created a surface that was both impossibly slippery and incredibly sticky. Then, for the final touch, I sprinkled thousands of silver ball bearings across the mess. If a foot touched this floor, it wouldn't just slip, it would launch into orbit. The glowing welcome. Next, I moved to the front door. This was going to be my grand greeting. I went to my dad's workshop and found his industrial soldering iron. Using some copper wiring, I wrapped it tightly around the interior brass doorknob. I plugged it into a heavy-duty timer set for midnight. In a few hours, that knob would be reaching temperatures hot enough to sear a steak. I could already imagine the smell of burning leather gloves when Rusty tried to force his way in. But I wasn't done with the entrance. Above the door frame, I rigged a pressurized canister of industrial-strength wood glue. I connected it to a thin, invisible fishing line stretched across the threshold. Right next to it, I positioned a high-powered floor fan aimed directly at a box containing 10 pounds of ultra-fine, golden craft glitter. If the heat didn't stop them, the glue and glow combo would turn them into human disco balls. While I worked, I kept an eye on the street. Finally, I headed to the grand staircase. This was the heart of the house. I took 10 heavy, gallon-sized paint cans from the garage. I tied them to the banisters with thick nylon rope, adjusting the length so they would swing at exactly chest height for a grown man. I tested the swing. Whoosh! The momentum was perfect. It was pure physics, a beautiful, deadly pendulum. By 11:30 p.m., the house was silent. The party music was off, the lights were dimmed. I sat at the top of the stairs with a bowl of ice cream and a pair of binoculars. My traps were set. My heart was thumping like a drum. I wasn't just Leo anymore. I was the guardian of the gate. And then I heard it. The faint, metallic click of a gate being opened in the backyard. The game was finally, officially, on. Midnight. The silence in the house was so heavy I could hear my own pulse. Then it happened. Crack! The sound of a heavy boot stepping on a frozen twig right outside the kitchen window. I retreated to the shadows of the hallway. "I told you, Slim, the kid is asleep," Rusty whispered. I could see his silhouette through the frosted glass. He reached for the back door handle, the one I had been heating with the industrial coil for hours. The moment his bare palm touched that glowing brass, the sound was like a steak hitting a searing hot cast-iron skillet. Rusty didn't just scream. He made a sound I've never heard a human make before. It was a high-pitched howl that probably woke up every dog in a 3-mile radius. He pulled his hand away, skin red and smoking, and stumbled backward, straight onto the ice-covered porch. Whoosh! His feet went flying. He did a full backflip and landed face first on the frozen wood. Thud! I had to bite my lip to keep from laughing out loud. "You idiot!" Slim hissed, pushing past him. "It's a door handle, Rusty. Get up!" Slim kicked the door open with a roar of anger. He stepped into the kitchen, ready to grab me, but he forgot about the laws of physics. My olive oil and marble bead mixture was waiting. His first step was his last stable moment of the night. His long legs began to move like a cartoon character running in place. Slide, slide, crash! He hit the island counter, which triggered the first tripwire. Clang! A heavy frying pan, swung from the ceiling like a pendulum, caught him right in the jaw. "My teeth! I think I swallowed a tooth," Slim mumbled, his voice muffled by the floor. Rusty, now recovered but furious, crawled into the kitchen on his hands and knees to avoid sliding. He thought he was being smart. He didn't see the thousands of micro-racer toy cars I had glued to the floor facing the opposite direction. As he put his weight down, the wheels rolled. It was like he was on a conveyor belt to disaster. He slid across the floor and slammed head first into the open dishwasher. They were broken, bruised, and covered in kitchen grease, but they were desperate now. They saw me at the top of the stairs, waving a flashlight. "Come and get me, you slowpokes!" I yelled. They charged. Big mistake. As they reached the middle of the staircase, I released the ropes. 2 massive cans of sky blue and neon pink exterior house paint swung down in a perfect arc. Bam! Splash! The impact sounded like a car crash. Slim took the blue, Rusty took the pink. They didn't just get hit, they were launched backward, tumbling down the stairs in a colorful, sticky mess. They lay at the bottom, looking like 2 very confused modern art paintings. That was when I triggered the final trap. I turned on the industrial leaf blower I'd hidden in the coat closet, which was aimed at a bag of 5 pounds of white feathers. Within seconds, my colorful burglars were transformed into giant, sticky, neon-colored chickens. The capture and the victory. I didn't wait for them to get up. I grabbed my phone and hit play on the stereo system. I had a recording of a police standoff, sirens, barking dogs, and a megaphone shouting, "Get on the ground with your hands up!" The look of pure terror on their faces was the best Christmas gift I ever received. They didn't even try to run. They just sat there, covered in paint and feathers, sobbing quietly. When the real police arrived 10 minutes later, they found me sitting on the sofa, calmly sipping a juice box, pointing toward the 2 birds in the hallway. "Merry Christmas, officers," I said with a wink. The next morning, when my parents finally burst through the door, crying and terrified, they found the house, well, mostly clean, except for the smell of olive oil and a few blue feathers in the carpet. I never told them the full story, but every time a black van drives past our house now, it doesn't stop. They know who lives here. They know about Leo.